I'm standing here in a library to let you know the scholarly aspect of the program you're about to see. This is another one of those special educational programs from On Location. I'm Ken Kiedrowski. We're going to be talking to the principal of Rising Sun High School. Stay tuned. Well, thanks for joining us here on Location. I'm Ken Kiedrowski. Thank you for your time watching us today. This is another one of those editions that we kind of look at as being kind of special, and very special because it's going to focus on education. And today, we're at the Rising Sun High School, and sitting across from me is Dr. Charles Helm. And he said I call him Chip. That's not for the students, that's just for a TV interviewer. So Chip, thank you for being here with me this morning.
Thanks for
having me. I appreciate that very much. Oh yeah. You know, I'm going to do something that I very rarely do. I'm going to jump into a question that I talked to you about before we started the show. And that is, I have my background in education too. And I know that there are a lot of misunderstandings about education. I mean, people say, oh, we know what teachers do. And we know what a bus driver does, and we know what those cafeteria ladies do, but we're not really sure what a superintendent does, or we don't know what a high school principal does. So if you had a chance to sit down with a bunch of local taxpayers, what would you say to them? What are some misconceptions that you'd like to get rid of these misconceptions?
I think the first thing I would do is invite them to spend a day with me.
Yeah.
I would have them come to
walk a mile in
High
my
School,
shoes.
Exactly, and see what we do for kids. I'd have them spend some time with me in my office, in our hallways, before school, after school. We visit classrooms, and they could see what we do with students on a regular basis.
Yeah, they'd probably come in here thinking that they're running around, they're doing all this stuff, that there's chaos going on. But I mean, hey, I'm a stranger in the building this morning as far as they're concerned, and it's calm and peaceful to me.
I mean, we pride ourselves on three things, and I think any parent or any visitor that comes through here would be able to identify what they are. We try to make decisions that are in best interest of kids. We try to have conversations about kids in an effort to make them successful, and we work to be great. And those three things we do every day.
Okay. Well, now that we've taken care of those misconceptions, let's go back to before Chip was a high school principal. What drew you into education to begin with?
When I was in college, I originally thought I wanted to be a lawyer. And I had an opportunity to volunteer at a Boys and Girls Club in Chestertown. And I really enjoyed working with kids. And suddenly I thought, I want to be a teacher. I want to spend time helping kids reach their goals, be successful.
So what did you teach?
I was a social studies teacher for most of my time, but I also taught English.
Okay, but then there was one morning you woke up and you said, gee, I want to be a school administrator. So what made you want to go over to the dark side of the force?
I would give credit to Mr. Randy Schaefer, who was an assistant principal at Elkton High School at that point in time. I think he saw something in me, and he started to talk about whether or not I would be interested in being an assistant principal down the line. And that got me interested, and before you knew it, I had signed up to take grad classes at Loyola College, and that started me down the road towards administration.
Well, it's kind of funny. You didn't want to become a lawyer, but as you well know, when you are a school administrator, you have to know what school law is, what the laws are in Maryland, what the laws are, or the whatever the Board of Education comes up with, the board policy, etc. You have to be well grounded in that, and so it's almost like being a junior grade attorney.
Yes, there's a ton of policies and regulations that regulate what we do on a regular basis. And you have your local Cecil County policies and regulations that are based on state of Maryland expectations, as well as some federal expectations.
Well, I didn't Google you, but I went to the school website. Websites are interesting. And let's see, you were an assistant principal at Northeast?
Yes, sir.
AP at Perryville?
Yes, sir.
Principal at Bohemian Manor, Perryville principal, and now, of course, Rising Sun. So You're moving around all over the place.
I've worked in each of the 5 comprehensive high schools in Cecil County. I taught at Elkton High for
Yeah.
7 years. That's where I got my start. And then moved on to Northeast and Perryville as APs. And since that time, I've had the privilege of being the principal of Bohemia Manor, Perryville High, and now Rising Sun High.
So you've worked in all these buildings, and you have to establish yourself in one building, then you have to establish yourself in the next building. So how does that go? I mean, that gets to be a little bit wearing, or do you rely upon certain standard elements and you just apply that to the next building?
Well, I can't. When I became an assistant principal, it was different. Your job as an assistant principal is to
Make the principal look good.
make the principal
Yeah,
look good,
yeah,
to
absolutely.
support whatever the principal's vision is.
Exactly right.
So an assistant principal's job, as you move from place to place, it's really just about building relationships with kids and doing what your principal needs you to do. When you become a principal, the most difficult dynamic that I found is if you're following someone that was very successful, you're often the person that replaced the person, if that makes sense.
That's right.
And that can be a challenge because you need to stand up for who you are and stand on your own 2 feet, and at the same time demonstrate a lot of respect for the person that came before you.
So if you have the wonderful, the venerable whoever who retires, now you're the new guy on the block. Like, who do you think you are? You're not Mr. So-and-so. You're not Dr. So-and-so. How dare you? This is still his building.
And you have that. That's more of winning the kids in the community over. I think in general, it's my 13th year as a high school principal. So, my last 2 stops at Perryville and Rising Sun, most people knew who I was and what I was about. And it wasn't as difficult. My first stop at Bohemia Manor was the biggest challenge. I hadn't worked in the community. The gentleman I replaced was an outstanding school-based administrator.
A legend?
Very well liked, yes.
Yeah.
Probably walked on water to
Yeah, you
certain
got to
people.
watch out for those legends.
And so that was the biggest challenge. But at the same point in time, the building was in a great spot. So there normally good comes with replacing somebody like that as well.
What do you call it? Do you call it back to school night at the beginning of the year when the parents come in, or?
We have 2 things. We do an upper class return to school night, and then we do new student orientation. So we kind of have 2 back to school nights.
And I'm going to take a wild guess that the most highly attended grade level is that of the freshmen.
Correct.
Yeah, and then it goes a little bit less for the sophomores. Okay.
Exactly.
What can you do about that? I mean, this isn't an oral exam, but what can you do to turn that around? I mean, parents kind of like give up.
We've done the back to school night issue is really about what information are you sharing with people, and is it productive? And you need to make sure that your message is fresh and you're always sharing information that's needed. If it's always the same old, it's I heard that in 10th grade, I don't need to go again. Or I heard that the last 2 years, I don't need to go again. So we've tried to change our evening events to draw more people out. And over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of success with that.
Well, I'll jump backwards again. We talked about where you've been, and you've been, it's like that old Johnny Cash song, I've been everywhere, man, I've done everything. But where'd you go to school?
I'm a county grad. I graduated from Perryville High School in 1992, and I went to college in Chestertown, Maryland. I went to Washington College. I graduated from there in 1996, and I was hired that next winter to teach at Elkton High School.
How, for the people who aren't familiar, how many students are in this fine building?
Just over 1,100.
1,100, and the faculty?
Faculty is 80 plus.
80 plus. Okay. And you probably have a fine custodial staff.
We do. We have a good-sized custodial staff, good-sized kitchen staff, we have paraprofessionals, and of course, the clerical people that all help make the building run.
Oh yeah, well, when I did the program, very fortunate to have been doing a program with Jeff Lawson last year. We talked about taking good care of your secretary and custodian in a building. If you get those 2 covered, otherwise, forget about it. Yeah. Special features in the building. I think a building like this would have to have advanced placement courses.
We do. We run a comprehensive advanced placement program. We offer courses in math, social studies, English, science, fine arts. So, we run the gamut of AP courses. And we also have a great relationship with Cecil College, and we offer college courses here on site.
And that has to save mommy and daddy quite a bit of money.
There's a good relationship with the college, and there are some benefits to taking classes while you're still in high school, some tuition reduction benefits. So hopefully kids take advantage of those. And here at Rising Sun we do. I mean, we have over 100 students that participate in the Cecil College programs.
Yeah, I know you have all you can do in just running this building, but does Cecil College, do they have some 4-year programs now? Or is it still basically 2 years?
Cecil College is a 2-year school, but they've built some tremendous relationships with other colleges, local and further away, in which you can start at Cecil and finish in 4 years between their articulation agreements.
This is probably the $1 million question, the $1 million topic: school safety. Of course, there's has to be a vision at the top of the district as to how we're going to keep the building safe. What do you guys do here in Rising Sun High School to keep all of your clients safe?
I would say school safety is our #1 priority. Unfortunately, all schools are touched by threats at some point in time via social media or someone saying something they shouldn't. And I know that brings a lot of attention to those issues. But I would say that school safety for me as the high school principal is something I think about 180 days a year, every day. It's what I'm thinking about in the morning when I greet kids. It's what I'm thinking about in the afternoon as they're heading home. A good day for us is a day in which all 1,100 show up and all 1,100 make it home safely. To support that, we have a comprehensive CERT plan. When CERT refers to our school safety protocols, we drill just like every other school does. We recently had a secure entrance added, which you entered through today. And I know Cecil County Public Schools is committed to having those in all of our buildings, elementary, middle, high, and the School of Technology. And I think the other big key comes back to relationships. We need to build positive relationships with our kids and parents so they trust us, so they share with us things that unfortunately threaten the safety of our student body.
I know that to a lot of people when they enter a building, and if they're stopped at the door, they kind of get, But for me, I'm welcoming it because I know from a building principal standpoint that, you have to have a harder target. You can't be you want to be a welcoming building, you want to be a friendly building, you want to do all these wonderful things that teachers have done going way, way back and making it a friendly place. But unfortunately, in this day and age, you've got to have barriers like the fact that I couldn't open up that door until I was buzzed in. You have to have that.
There's a story from last school year where there was a grandparent sitting in the parking lot, and it was about 5 of 7, and I found it strange that there was an older person sitting in a car when there aren't many people here. And I walked in the building, put my stuff down, grabbed our school resource officer, and we walked back out and talked to the gentleman. Fortunately, he was just doing his daughter a favor. He was a grandparent, and he was dropping off athletic equipment. But we do those things on a regular basis, and to that gentleman's credit, every time I see him now, be it in the grocery store, at the Little League field, or here at an event, he actually always brags about the fact that we took the time to ask him who he was and that we noticed that he was sitting there. So I think for the most part, parents, community members appreciate that level of vigilance. They want to know that we're paying attention, that we're thinking about those things.
Okay, I went to school recently and I became familiar with a term called restorative practices. So why don't you extend the lesson beyond me to the folks at home right now?
Well, I would say that all educators are worried about our students that get in trouble, that get suspended, that have issues. And recently we've spent a lot of time looking at, is there a connection between students that get suspended on a repeated basis and their success moving forward in life? So sometimes known as the suspension to prison pipeline. Restorative practices is one of those things that's designed to address relationships and behaviors for the purposes of restoring them, to try to get kids off of that track, to get family members involved, to get teachers involved, to get anyone involved who's willing to support that child and hopefully point them in a different direction.
And I know we could talk longer about that. There's so many things to talk about regarding to suspension and expulsion and all the rest of it.
I mean, it's one of those things that you can always talk about. We focused for years on, rigor and academic rigor. And you hear that all the time. And you'll hear parents in the community say, is the school challenging? Does it provide, students with opportunities? I think what restorative practice has done is it's allowed us and almost forced us to think about relationships first. And if you have good relationships with kids, it's going to lead to relevant and rigorous instruction.
In the very few minutes we have left here, tell me about this good news. You have the Teacher of the Year going on in this building. Rising
Sun High School is very lucky to have Miss Josie Perry. She's a social studies teacher here at Rising Sun High. Last spring was named Cecil County Teacher of the Year. And we recently found out that she's a finalist to be the Maryland State Teacher of the Year. That will be announced in late October. And not only does she represent us well, I think she'd be an outstanding representative for the state of Maryland. An outstanding lady, a great teacher, loves kids and passionate about their success.
Yeah, so Josie, if you're watching, all you have to do to lock it up at the state level is get a shirt that looks like the state flag, get your crab and your mallet and that and start pounding it out and sing the state anthem and you'll be a winner. You'll be in. It'll be all good. And then Rising Sun will have the Teacher of the Year here for the state of Maryland. That's all good news. And
Absolutely.
it's reflective. It has to go back. I mean, if something goes wrong, you're going to get blamed for it. If something good happens, then congratulations. So nice job. Dr. Charles Helm, Chip, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, I'll be back in a minute or two and we'll give you the lesson review. So stay tuned. Here's the lesson review. Where were we today? Well, we were at Rising Sun High School, talking to Dr. Charles Helm, talking about his day, his activities, his hopes, his dreams, and everything else that's going on in this amazing high school. The 1,200 students that he works with all day, the amazing faculty that he has. And he even has one teacher here who's going on to the States for the Teacher of the Year for the entire state of Maryland. Quite an accomplishment for the teacher and quite a feather in the cap for Dr. Helm. It's an amazing thing, public school education, doing so much for the students and doing so much for the community and doing so much for the state. It's my pleasure to bring this information to you. I really thank you for the time you've spent with me today. My name is Ken Kiedrowski and you've been on location.